Um, and this is the first of a monthly session for families of juniors who work with me with a package arrangement, or your invited guests. So you'd be welcome to invite people to come, but I'm not going to make it super publicly available. It's something that I hope that we can develop some sense of camaraderie together as we go through this journey of being a junior in high school and or the family of juniors in high school. And what are the things that you're thinking and wondering about, this year in particular? It's a really wonderful year. I know young people, you often are thinking like, oh my goodness, this is the year everybody tells me about. It's so hard. I have to work so hard and I have to think about colleges and so many unknowns, and it can be really scary. And I want to affirm that for you. And I also want to offer you the idea that it's actually one of the most transformative years you're going to have in your entire lives. It's really, really fun. And in my experience of young people, they often have real insight that develops over the year about like what makes them excited about learning, what makes them excited about doing, what makes them, what makes them smile. I know there's a lot to not smile about, but there's a lot to smile about. So I'm really looking forward to having these times together. If possible, it would be great for somebody in the family to attend these meetings monthly. But I do understand that that's not always possible. So it will be recorded and then posted to the Schooling Doula YouTube page. And I'll usually send out a link in an email as well. So a few sort of ground rules. I'd be super glad if you want to chat me about anything. And if you want a private chat, you can go into the chat and say, just chat the presenter. You can do that. Or you can feel free to chat with everybody about kind of what's going on for you. What's it like to be a junior in high school? What's it like to be the parent or the family member of a junior in high school? What questions you're having? All of those things are fair game for the chat. So feel free to do that. Let's see what else. The format's going to be that I will go over a few things, some different slides, and I'll give you some think activities, writing activities to do during this time for the next 23 minutes or so. And then at the hour, I'm going to say thank you so much for coming. And those of you who want to stick around after that for an open Q&A, I would love for you to do that. And if you cannot or do not want to, then that's totally fine as well. Those of you who already have a meeting with me set up, then great. I'll see you at that next one. If you haven't already set a meeting with me, tonight would be a great time to do that. And I should put that in the chat, but I'm not going to take a second to do that right this very second, but I will before the end. What was I going to say? You can go to my website, schoolingdoula.com, and where it says book a consult, that works for every kind of appointment. And if you're a package client, then you go to package, either hour or half hour, or if you just want to check in, there's also a check-in appointment, which is 15 minutes. So any of those things you could certainly be doing. Let me see. Good. So I saw that closed captioning is enabled, and that is awesome. And thank you. Okay. Good. Q&A is awesome. We will totally do that. But feel free to keep asking questions in the chat because I'm sure other people have them. And guess what? If you have answers for each other, totally do that. Like we're a community together. I know you don't all know each other and you don't need to know each other necessarily, but I know that you all know things, and some parents, this is not their first time doing this work. So feel free to post questions and answers in the chat if you'd like. Okay. I wanted to post the slides in the chat, so hold on, let me do that. I had it all set up in advance, and then, you know, best laid plans. So here we go, great. Okay, so those are the slides. If you need those, or if you'd like those, you probably could use them during this time. And you may, during this session, you may want a notepad or some blank even drawing paper, or your notes app on your phone, something where you have an opportunity to record your thoughts, okay? Because I'm gonna be asking some of those. So this next slide I'm not going to go over, but you could look them up. These are my goals, is for you to have a promote unity, joy, and wellness in your time of transformation and transition. And again, I'm not going to harp on this either, but this is the time of year. This slide about what my role is supporting you, but I'm not going to make decisions for you. Supporting you, but I'm not going to write your essay for you. Supporting you, but I'm not going to do your applications for you, that kind of thing. The reason I am saying that with a smile is that that's like kind of the seniors, like a year from now, where you're going to be, right, is maybe wishing that I would do those things for you, but no, really no, you're going to be set by this time next year. You're going to be have most of your work done, and many of my seniors are in that situation. So okay, so what's the agenda for today? We're going to do some reflecting on your why, and then we're going to do a little bit of nuts and bolts, and the question about college visits is right on there, you'll see. So let's try to get to that as well. All right. Okay, so the first thing I wanted to think about is when you're thinking about this next phase of life, right? We were talking about being a junior. When you're a junior, or you're the parent or the family member of a junior, everybody wants to be part of that, right? And they're so curious, and everybody either remembers what it's like, or they're anticipating what it's going to be like. And they've got questions for you, and they want to hear all about that, right? And so they might say something like, well, you know, where are you going to be applying to college? Or, wow, junior year is such a big year. You know, tell me all about your stress and anxiety about that. And so what I recommend doing is, you know, first, if you can, like, take a deep breath and maybe use all of your meta moment strategies, right? You know, your breathing and around your hand or whatever you do, but, you know, some sort of deep breath. And then turn it right around into a question for them, right? You can say something like, you know, when they say, where are you going to apply to college or something, you know, you say, well, I'm not sure. And then you could say, like, did you go to college? And if so, you could ask them, well, how did you make that decision? Or what were you looking for in a college? And if they didn't go to college, you could say, well, so tell me what you did after high school, and how did you make that decision? How did you get there? Because a lot of times when people are asking these questions, it's just that they want to be, you know, have something to talk with you about. They want to feel connected to you about it. And so it really isn't about, are you good enough? Are you a good student? Are you a good person? Are you going to make it in life? It's not about that. It's really, it's a bid for connection. So take a deep breath and ask them a question, okay? Feel free to post in the chat any experiences you've had with that, or questions you have about that, or ideas about how you think that might go. All right. Next up is a homework assignment, or a do now. And it's to really be exploring kind of, what's your purpose in this thinking about post high school, okay? And for teens, your question, and I invite you to do some writing or some drawing, some reflecting, is ask yourself, do you want to go to college? That might be a yes, no, or a maybe. And if so, why? And you've got some reasons you could list. And for family members, you might want to think about, do you want your child to attend college? Yes, no, maybe. And why? And why not? And then after you've done that today, right now, while we're thinking, or after this meeting, I'd like you to set a time where you are going to talk with each other about that, or where you share your writing with each other, right? Like sometimes talking isn't the thing that lights us up, but sharing our writing works, or sharing our drawing. Maybe you have a drawing of your answers to these that you could share with your family member. I'd be really interested in you sharing that with each other and having time to talk about that or to share about it. Let me just set another timer for myself here. Thank you. Okay, great. Good. So this is based on an idea of having a set aside time to reflect on college or post high school planning, so that it's not like all day, all the time, every time you see each other, you're sort of, for students, right? Like you don't want to be thinking, oh gosh, every time I see my parents, they're going to be asking me about what colleges I'm applying to, or, what I'm doing with school in order to be able to apply to college, or I don't even know if I want to go to college, right? And so the idea is that you might consider setting aside some time to intentionally work on this stuff, and then not working on it the other times. Is that in there? I guess that was, sorry, I'm just checking on when, there we go. That's this, having a designated time to talk. Does it make sense? Okay, so I'm going to go back. Does anybody want to, or you'd be welcome to post in the chat any responses that you've been having, or you can keep that to yourself, but that's a project to be thinking about. Another thing I'd be really interested in you doing, young people, and I'll talk about this with you in a session if you're not here, but for sure, I'd love you to have an intentional discussion with at least 2 people about their post high school college experiences. If they went to college, great. And if they didn't go to college, that's also great. Particularly though, I would like you to ask a couple of people about their college experiences. And in the next couple of months, 3 months, we'll have different family gatherings potentially happening. And so you might choose one of those people, or you might choose a current college student or a recent grad who you know from something, or you might choose somebody you know from school or from work or from extracurricular activities. And I'd love you to interview them about their experience with college and or post high school. Any thoughts, questions about that? Okay. Let's see, next up. Okay, and so the other thing I'd love for you to be thinking about here is to take a real intentional pause and say, okay, we're entering this process of transitioning as a family from being to living all together and into a place where we're launching off into post high school. Maybe we'll still live all together, maybe we won't live all together. During this transition time, how do you imagine you might grow as an individual and as a family in this transition? Feel free to take a note about that. And I'm going to keep offering some prompts, but feel free to turn me down lower so that you can have some time to really think about this. How do you want this time to be for you and for your family? If you're a young person, How do you want it to be for you and for your parents or your aunties or your extended family? If you're the parent or a caregiver, how do you want this time to be for you and your young person and your relationship with that young person? And then does having a designated time to talk about it make sense for you? If so, do you think that would be multiple times a week, weekly, monthly, maybe before and after this type of meeting? These meetings are going forward be on Thursdays at 7:30, and if that, second Thursdays, November 9th being the first one. If that absolutely does not work and I get a whole bunch of people that absolutely does not work for, then I'm glad to try to find another time, but that's what I've got right now. Okay, and then the last thing to think about is what else might you want or need to do or discuss in order to help this be a time. So many things in the way. Yeah, okay. A time of unity, wellness, and joy, since that's our goal. I know it sounds lofty, but I will just say I was just talking to a senior tonight who said, Brennan, I love my life right now. I am loving school. I am loving my activities, and I'm really actually enjoying working on this writing about myself thing. That's what we can all aspire to. Yeah. Certainly by the end of the process, it'll be good. All right. So what's next? Okay, so all of that previous stuff are things that I hope you will consider working on after this meeting, in the next week, whenever works for you. But I will be following up with people about the homework. So feel free to send it to me in advance via email. Feel free to bring it to our next meeting. Feel free to text with me about it. All of those things are great ways to communicate with me. Okay, so heading into the next section, a few nuts and bolts. Coming up next is the PSAT time, or questions about testing. Some of you I've already met with, and we have a general testing plan. If you don't already have a testing plan, no worries. It's time to consider one though. And some of you are not going to do the tests, and it's already been decided, and that is perfectly a perfectly defensible approach, but it's a very individual approach, okay? And so I want to have us have that conversation. If you are planning to do the PSAT in October, which is offered, which I highly recommend unless we've already had a conversation about you not doing it. I highly recommend that you actually prepare. And so I would recommend, if you could, using either, if you think a book is the way to go, then great, lots of books out there, and I could definitely recommend pretty much any of the off-the-shelf ones would be great. There are people who focus and specialize on test prep that I could connect you to for sure. And then Khan Academy offers free test prep that you can do. And also I know that the district sent out something through College Board through Blue Book that you can use to prepare. If nothing else, you want to prepare for the Desmos app, the online calculator. And most of the kids I've been talking to say that they're very experienced with that already. But if that sounds new to you, feel free to go and explore Desmos, because that is what is used for the calculator on the digital PSAT. Why do you prepare? For two reasons, at least. One is that then your PSAT will experience will reflect your best try, and then will help us have a conversation about whether you should take an SAT or an ACT, and whether you should prepare and how much you should prepare and when you should take it. So if the PSAT is something that like is a pretty accurate reflection of your testing experience, then that'll help with that. Another thing is that if you are at all interested in something called a National Merit Scholarship, which is not a large financial scholarship, is more of a bragging thing, and so is not super important in the world. I just want to say that. But some people really want to get to a status called National Merit Scholar semifinalist. And if you would like that, then this test is the way to get that. This is the only real way to do it. You also can do it through SAT and then putting in something about an appeal. So if for some reason you can't take the PSAT, or you really let's just talk about that if you're particularly interested in National Merit Scholar. But in general, it's just really good practice and help with decision making longer term with testing. Okay, and then when you go in for the testing to do the PSAT, they're going to ask you for your contact information, and they're going to ask you if you want to sign up for colleges and other post-high school planning people to send you mail. And so if you do want that mail, then go ahead and put your information in. If you don't want that mail, it's perfectly fine to not give that information. And finally, if you want to go in there with an email address that you plan to use for college communication, then you could consider creating an email address that is particularly for college things, like something very professional and relatively straightforward. Your name at Gmail or some other email provider is common, or that your name and college or something like that makes it obvious that it's a college email. That could also work. And then that would be the one, if you list that on the College Board information, then that'll be the email address that colleges will send stuff to. Okay, so again, so in nuts and bolts stuff, this is just kind of where we are. This is a timeline that I may have shared with you. The next one I probably have shared with you, but just to say, we're right here in October at the beginning of your junior year. You have all of this time ahead of you. You have plenty of time to do all of the steps. This year, the focus is on building your college list, thinking about where you might want to apply if you want to apply to college. It's also thinking about how you spend your time inside and outside of school, and getting a sense of where you are with your interests and aptitudes. If you'd like to, I can help you do an assessment that gets at kind of more about your interests, and we can explore potential careers, potential majors, all of those things. We can work on planning your classes. We can work on planning testing, just like we were just talking about. And it's not until the end of this junior year that we start really working on the components of the college application. So you have this year to be building toward that. The other thing that's not on here that is on here, that is very too small for you to see, but is to think about reading and what place reading plays in your life, and whether there are some things that you could do to increase your reading for fun, for learning, for whatever you want, but just your engagement with reading or listening to books. That's something that we can talk about this year. Okay, in the last couple of minutes, those of you who haven't yet started with me, this will be unfamiliar, but those of you who have, CouncilMore is the management hub that I use to manage our work together and the list building and all of that. And you can use the link here to go there if you want to. And it's also always just app.councilmore.com. It's also on my website. If you go to colleges, it says current students. There's a link to Counsel More there. I also really love using College Aid Pro if financial fit is at all part of your consideration. And so that's app.collegeaidpro. And I would love for you to start with list building from financial fit conversations. So families, if you have questions about that, please let me know. Great. I will go back to the questions about the digital PSAT in just a minute. Okay. So great question. And so this year, what you're going to be doing is thinking about building that college list. And some things you will think about are location, financial fit, academic fit, and social fit. And so together we will work on those things, getting clear about those. I just want to end with this, that less than 5% of schools in the United States are over-enrolled. Most schools accept most students. There are over 4,000 places to go to school just in the United States, never mind internationally. And there are over 1,400, quote unquote, top schools. And so there is a place for you. There is a place for every single one of you young people, and your family will find a place to be. What you are working on this year is getting to know schools that might really be a good fit for you. And that's the most important thing in getting accepted to a college, is that you show them and they show you that you are really good fits for each other. Like, it's a dating process, right? You're saying, I love you, or I like you, or I'm interested in you because you have this, this, and this, and I have this, I have these special gifts to offer you. And that's what I have seen again and again, that is when the school sees a young person who has what they're looking for, then they usually say, yes, please come, right? And schools do a pretty good job, although, we'll work on how do you find that out? What are they looking for? But that's our project this year, is to get to know schools. And that's part of why I go visiting schools. And that's part of why I encourage you guys to go visiting schools. Because it's one thing to read about them on paper, and there's another thing, like when you're actually there, you're like, oh, okay, you learn a lot about that. So at our next session, we'll talk a lot about visiting schools. I'll do work on that, but I can do some Q&A about that tonight. Okay, so I'll work on the rest of this stuff at the next time, but you are going to be working this year on putting together a picture of you. And that's what the whole application is. And we will work on these things, and we will we can work on these in the Q&A, okay? So this, though, before we leave, this slide is about books and resources. And those of you who are working with me comprehensively, or on the larger packages, when you come to meet with me at my house, I can offer you a lot of these books I have that I give to people as part of our work together, if you'd like that. And also at the bottom of this slide, I've got like podcasts that I enjoy listening to, and that can be really good resources. So that is about the end of the presentation time of tonight. I really look forward to hearing your work that you've done, and the reflecting on your why, on why you might want to be going to college, if at all, why you might want your young person to do that, and what you learn from those interviews with other people who've gone to college. And then I'm interested in learning about your plans for how you want to be together as a family, or how you want this time to go. Feel free again to send that to me in writing if you want to. I'll post my email in the chat. I also have it there on the screen. You also can text me about it. You can put it in the chat tonight, or we can talk about it at a next meeting. Those of you who we're planning for this to be a half an hour. This is the end of the half an hour. It was so wonderful to spend some time with you tonight. Greetings from Chicago. Look forward to seeing you in Seattle when I get back, and have a wonderful evening. I am going to keep the lines open. I'm going to turn off stop the screen share, and so I can see who's here. And I'm here for questions and answers. There have been 2 questions in the chat already, so I'll take those, but feel free to also unmute and share. Let's see. Okay, so one question was, what's the point of college visits? Let me see. It's not like they will give you a balanced picture. That's so good. I love that question. Yeah, so, and Jonah, do you want to say, are you still there? Okay, or, oh, it's Chris.
He stepped out, but yeah, it was him and I were discussing this, and just, it's not like you're going to go to a college visit and they're going to go, no, the engineering program's really bad. If you're interested in that, don't come here. So, and kind of, him and I were talking, and he was having more questions of like what he wants to study, perhaps rather than like where he wants to study, which I know is kind of a feedback loop. But it got me kind of thinking like, well, what are we really, seeing besides the rec room and, the other stuff the new dorm, not necessarily the dorm he would stay at, but those
So
things.
true, so true. Well, and other people feel free to chime in. I think, there's value in visiting and going on the real tour and hearing what they have to say and talking to those students for sure. There's also value in visiting and wandering around and going into the dining hall and the library and like just overhearing what people are talking about and reading the newspaper and seeing like going into the stores around in the community and being like, hey, what are students like here? Like last night I'm here at this hotel in Chicago, and we're staying across the street from Loyola Chicago, which is a great school. At least it seems, right, like from the tour, seems like a great school. And so I said to the guy who works at the hotel, like, what are the students like? And he said, well, I'm sure they're lovely and everything, but the ones who rent the rooms in my grandmother's house are party animals, and they broke her banister in her in the hallway at a drunken party and blah, 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 whatever. So, it's those kinds of things that when you're there, you would not be able to get from a website. You would not be able to get from an admissions session. You would not be able to get from those write-ups about books and stuff. Is like, just go there and actually try to have conversations with people who are real people who go there. That's one. Two, for me, like Loyola Chicago, great school, by the way, for real. I'm not kidding. And it has a lot of advantages to it. But it is the elevated, train line that they have here in Chicago is right next to the campus. And that's awesome, right? For, getting around and everything. But if there's someone who's like noise sensitive or like that would be scary to them, I didn't know that. Like, I've gone to many a webinar about Loyola Chicago. I've read everything there is to read about Loyola Chicago, but like until I came here and saw the campus, like I just couldn't really get a vibe for like what it's really like. And so I find, and also for young people these days, and I don't know if this is true for Jonah, but college is very abstract. It is like this faraway place, and you see it on TV, and so you think it's just about raw football games. Like that's like, or basketball games or whatever. I mean, because that's what it is in the movies, or it's drunken parties or whatever it is. But it's like, it's certainly nothing about like going to classes or learning things or being involved in service clubs or really anything that college actually is. And so going to a variety of campuses, just to even go to a variety of campuses, can really help students have an expanded idea of what it is that they're heading into, and helps them like actually integrate the fact that they like why they would want to research and think about what they might want to study at a place, because they get it. It's like a real place that they might go. And, you know, maybe your kid doesn't have that situation, but like I had this year's seniors, like the ones who haven't visited anywhere are just like, Brennan, I don't, just tell me where to apply. You know, I read these websites and they all just seem the same, you know? And so, you know, part of that can be part of my job, right? Because that's what I'm out going out there and visiting. But if you can go even to University of Washington, University of Puget Sound, Seattle U, UW Bothell, Western, places that are within an hour, hour and a half of our house, I mean, that is just a huge advantage to kids. So that's my soliloquy about that. Does anybody have anything they want to chime in about that, or other people who've been through visits? Or
would you recommend, I mean, obviously kind of getting a feel for the campus, you know, and doing it on weekends or vacation time? How, so those we can do kind of for the places that are close to us. But obviously we don't want the kids to miss too much school. So, you know, attending classes, all of that, I guess, would you recommend that kind of as a second look, like as a way to kind of really fine tune, but maybe just start that process of this is what a college campus could look like, a big school, small school?
Yeah, for sure. So for junior year, until we are really like clear and we could, so one thing is, if you know you're going on a trip or you have a particular time in your family's schedule where it would be convenient to fit in some visits to colleges and universities, think about that for this whole year, right? Like, I mean, really, it could be like even just a little bit of time. It doesn't have to be a big trip, okay? If you're already doing that, feel free to let me know and I can help you think about what are some places in that area that might be a good representation of options that would be fits for your kid. Because it isn't great to show them only places that are very, very difficult to gain acceptance to, right? So like, it's very typical, like a family who's going to Chicago and they'll be like, okay, let's visit Northwestern and University of Chicago. And that's great, but those schools are really, really, really hard to gain acceptance to. And so it would be better if we have that conversation before that. And then I say, that's great, you know, certainly go visit those schools if you'd like to, but also please visit DePaul and Loyola Chicago or Illinois Tech or, you know, whatever it is. So that they can have a balanced idea of what's possible. So that's not exactly what you were asking. But what I'm saying is, tell me if you know you're going somewhere, because it's going to take a little while to get to the point where your young people have lists of schools that are really good, like we've discerned are really good fits for them. And so there's like the early visits, like you were saying, like there's the early kind of checking things out. And then there's the like, okay, you know, is this really as good as I think it is? Because I've done the initial visits or I've, you know, virtual visits or whatever it is. And now I'm doing the really like, is this the place for me? And in some ways that is this the place for me can happen even after acceptance to a school, right? Because right now, seniors are finalizing their lists and getting their applications out and stuff. And I'm encouraging a balanced list of schools. Some are closer to home, some are farther from home, some are smaller, some are larger, some are more affordable, some are less affordable, you know, whatever it is, more selective, less selective. And it's really true that between now, where you are right now, young people who are in the room, and where you are in March to May of your senior year really can be very different. So it's important to have a variety of schools so that you have options to consider. And so it makes very much sense to visit again later. And if it's not in the budget to visit multiple times, then visiting then does make sense for sure. Visiting towards the end makes sense. That said, that's why I say try to go to the places that doesn't cost money to go visit, so that you just get a sense of like, what's a smaller school, what's a medium-sized school, what's a larger school feel like, and which of these schools, you know, feel like the kind of place that I'm hoping to go. And that might also change over time, right? But I feel like I'm talking way too much, but I guess that's the kind of design of this. What do people, anybody have any feedback, reactions, questions, thoughts about this visits question? Okay.
That was perfect. Thank you. Yeah. Because otherwise you could look at, oh my gosh, if we're going to go to the East Coast, we have to do it all. But it's just
No,
get a sense. I mean, we have no,
totally. Like,
yeah, that's perfect.
okay, I
Yeah.
will say that there's
Too
one
much.
family I'm working with now who I think had that in their mind, that like if they were going to do a college trip, it had to be huge. And so they put it off all year, and they are just doing their first ones now. It's senior year, October. It's not too late. It's not, okay, it's not, but it really would have been a lot more helpful to do something. They haven't even gone to UW, you know what I'm saying? So like, you know, because they had it in their mind as too big. So I'm trying to learn from that, and trying to help people like really break it down. Just, you know, just walk on over to Seattle U if you live close to there, or, you know, you've got an extra 2 hours on the Saturday, like where can you go? Yeah. Bellevue College, you know, like awesome. Let's do it. Was there a hand? Yes, Chris.
Yeah. Hi. I just wanted to follow up on Christina's point. Some of the colleges in Washington State are already doing like open days, like Western, for example. We're going to look at Western on October the 20th. There's different faculty are doing different days of, you can go and it's like a whole organized tour. So it's already happening.
Thank you so much for pointing that out, because that's true a lot of places, right? Like Gonzaga. Cliff, you want to chime in? Same, connected?
Oh, this is slightly different.
Okay,
It
but anyway,
actually is
okay.
gonna be-
So fall
yeah.
preview day is a thing. And so you could Google fall preview day at, you know, any schools nearby and see when they're happening. And I know Gonzaga has them like once a month, or actually several times. Wazoo has them. UW has different kinds of events happening. So fall, and then again, it's going to happen in April. April will be another time when there's a lot of like come to us, because that's when seniors are trying to decide where to go. So Cliff, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so this is connected. What do you think about the video, you know, the Zoom virtual visits?
Yeah, you can tell me what you think. I'm a big fan of virtual visits. I definitely you know, like expect that people will do virtual, and virtual visits at colleges. So when you go to a college website, and we will do this next time, okay? But when you go to a college website under admissions, or sometimes just standalone by itself, it just says visit, and you go to the visit page, and there's a section that's about virtual visits and a section that's about in-person visits. And so virtual visit wise, there's usually some recorded content that's already past sessions that they've had, virtual tours that they have, and that's all very good. And then though, they also offer something called virtual admissions information sessions. And usually what those are, they come in different formats. There can be student panels, there can be like classes on different, you know, particular topics about like how to apply to college kind of things, or they can have admissions officers doing a presentation just overall about their school. They do a little, you know, slideshow, and then they take a Q&A. What I like about those sessions that are called virtual information sessions, are they're usually live people. And so you will be able to, like we did tonight, stick around and ask real questions where you get kind of the, you know, person's off the cuff responses. And, you know, it's just more engaging than just a recorded virtual tour or past information session. That said, if you can't make one of those things, because sometimes like East Coast colleges offer those virtual information sessions sometimes at a time that doesn't easily work with a West Coast kids schedule, watching recorded content can be really, really helpful, right? You know, like it helps you learn about a school. I had one family last year who did something that wouldn't work for everybody, but it could work for you, is they had a time where they were at dinner together, or they just agreed to do it together, and they would watch tours of colleges or recorded content about colleges together, and sort of like had it be, you know, like movie night, but about about colleges. So that really helped that young person. That family didn't visit in person many places in advance, but they did visit that way. And then later, after the person got accepted, then they went to visit a lot of schools together. That particular young person had been to colleges before, though, so had an older sister who had gone on a bunch of college visits. So I think if your young person hasn't been to many campuses at all, then I really recommend going to some campuses close by. Like I really think that some young people just have no idea like what it really is. So yeah, Cliff.
Yeah, so the reason I asked the question is that with our older, now graduated, you know, from high school student, we pretty much only did visits on campus. And then we more recently, for our current junior, have gone to a couple of virtual presentations. And I guess I was realizing that there's such a big difference in being on the campus and really somehow getting that vibe from it. And I was kind of worried that maybe, you know, if you commit to just doing virtual visits and making kind of some choices right from then, from them, you might end up like getting this not the right vibe, if you know what I mean. I mean, because every virtual visit will probably have the vibe of Zoom. So,
So
you know,
true.
that really might kind of hurt, or the person who's doing that main part of the presentation might just be a little, you know,
Right.
hard to take on Zoom, but it wouldn't matter if you were actually in a big room or walking around a campus with that person.
You know, you make a really excellent point, and that actually applies though both to in-person and virtual, that like you really have to take all of these presentations with a grain of salt, just kind of like Jonah's point there, and Chris, you made for him, but that, you know, like who gives you the tour can sometimes sour someone on a whole school, but like usually, you know, people who are in admissions are cheerleader type people, right? And if you don't like cheerleader type people, you might be like, I don't like this whole place, but really it's you just need to go, you know, chat with the random person at the dining hall or something like that, or ask me. And the truth is that I know kids at like a lot of schools now, and so we could hook you up with somebody, you know, who isn't a paid cheerleader for the school, so that you get a sense of that. Certainly the other ideas that are coming to mind about how to get that information is like going on to Instagram pages for clubs, going onto the Reddit pages for particular schools. You know, there's lots of different ways to get that, but you're right, Cliff, that it matters like who's presenting, and we just need to take that all with a grain of salt, which is easier said than done. But yeah. Cool. This is great conversation. I'm loving it. Any any questions, thoughts on this before we go on to digital PSAT? Okie dokie. So the question was, can I talk more about the digital PSAT? Is that a new format? Do you know if Seattle Public Schools is mandating the digital PSAT? Okay, so for everybody, no matter if you're in Seattle Public Schools or outside of Seattle Public Schools, the PSAT that's being offered in the fall, I believe, is universally the digital PSAT. If I'm wrong about that, feel free to correct me. That's my belief. And the SAT is rolling out to be digital for everyone as of March. So the PSAT is going first, and then the SAT, and it has been digital in Europe for the past year and a half or whatever, or at least year. So I had students who were studying abroad last year, and they were taking the digital SAT. So how is it different? Let me get a slide. This is making me think, if you follow me on Facebook or Instagram, whichever you do, I frequently, not going to say every day, but frequently will post. Most Facebook, I get an almost every day post, but Instagram, I post when I've got something. And there was a post about this. So I'm having trouble finding my, oh, here, photos. Here we go. So this is not just, this is about the digital SAT, is what I'm remembering where that is, but it's very, very similar to the digital PSAT. You will go and you will, on the device you're going to use, have a Blue Book app that locks down the capability of the computer to access anything beyond the test. And then you go in to do the test. And when it's over, then it goes back to being your regular computer outside of the Blue Book app. And then you'll get a code and you'll go ahead and do it. So that's different from paper. Let's see what else. It's shorter. Sorry, I'll stop share and find that next slide. It's shorter than the previous SATs because they've done, they're doing adaptive testing now, where like they have on the, well, others tests that you young people have been taking for years, where they ask you a series of initial questions, and then they, depending on how you answer, they'll give you a harder set or an easier set of questions, but they've done the testing to know that it's reliable, and they'll get results comparable to the results that they used to get with more questions and on paper. Okay, so let me go through a couple of these slides that are about the differences. Are you seeing, what are you seeing? That looks like a whole bunch of junk. I need to like open it bigger. Okay. I'm going to stop share and then reshare. Okay. There we go. Okay, there will be a timer at the top of the screen. You will be able to annotate and highlight text. You will be able to eliminate your answers, you know, like to cross out ones that you don't want to use, and you will be able to zoom in. I'll do, how about in a future time, I'll like get all these slides together, because these are like right now still photos, so it's not really that easy for me to go through. Are there particular questions that you have about the digital PSAT?
No, I was just wondering what that was all about.
Okay. The nice thing is it's got like fewer questions and more time per question. And so kids who used to have accommodations for extended testing time may still have those accommodations, but they may find it that they don't need it as much as they used to. Because it used to be that it was almost impossible to finish the exam in the amount of time given for even an average person, never mind somebody who has processing challenges. And so now they've heard that that's kind of ridiculous, and they've adjusted. So I don't know, we'll see, right? Because it's the first time that we've done it, but that's the expectation. Cool. What other questions do people have? Any particular areas of question coming up? We've been here a while, and you may not have planned to go longer than the next 3 minutes. So yeah. Any questions that are coming up like this week at school, or yeah, Cliff, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, this could be answered anytime, so kind of up to you. So I know that by the end of junior year,
Mhm.
A Seattle Public Schools student has to decide whether or not middle school grades are going to stay on the transcript.
Mhm.
And obviously there's a lot of time left, but I just wondered if you have some thoughts about that. And if this is the
Yeah.
wrong time, just,
Oh, yeah. Sure, this is as good a time as any. And by the way, for those of you, if this doesn't apply or you're ready to go, feel free to go at any time. Thank you so much for spending the time that you've been spending. So this question about middle school grades, I don't know that it applies to private school folks as much, but if it does, feel free to stick around. They've got the opportunity, so what we're talking about is if you took high school classes in middle school, often if you start a foreign language or if you start algebra in middle school, those are the particular kinds of classes that colleges will be interested in. When you are going off, they want to know that you've taken those. And so the district and maybe the state has changed it so that the default is now that those middle school classes go onto the transcript unless you ask for them to be removed. And so if you have low grades from middle school, like you're an A student in high school, but you got C's and B's in those language and math classes in middle school, then you might not want them to be on your high school transcript because it kind of gives you a lower GPA than you're wanting. Like I've had the situation where a kid has a 4.0 for high school, they get to senior year and they still have that 4.0, but then now the middle school grades are on the transcript and they get added in and they're like, oh, but now I don't have a 4.0. And so they want to get rid of them. And so in that case, even though the counselors at high school say it's really not that big of a deal, it'll only bring it down to a 3.97, something like that. I know this is not everybody's situation. I'm just saying that, if this is your situation, if it's important to you you want that and you don't want those grades, then you absolutely have every right to take them off. And most of the colleges that want those classes reported, they don't need it to be on the transcript. They just want you will report it in the application. They'll ask you for middle school classes, and then you say, I took this and I took this, and they don't even need your grade really. They just need to know that you took it. And so I'm a fan of having them removed if you are feeling sensitive about it. If you're not feeling sensitive about it, it can be, and you maybe got good grades in middle school, better grades than you had in high school, then it can be an advantage to you to keep those on your transcript. So it's kind of, every kid is going to be different, and we should definitely have that conversation. And you have until the end of junior year to do that paperwork. So yeah, that was the long answer. Question about that at all? Dialogue? Okay. Anybody Chicago friendly? Like this is one of my first times really spending time here.
Definitely check out the Field Museum if you haven't had a chance to do that.
Tell me more about that.
It's one of the probably penultimate natural history museums probably in the world. Was it Ghost in the Darkness? I don't know if you ever saw that movie. The lion is there.
Wow.
That ate all the people. So it's a really awesome thing to check out.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for that tip. Corinne, I'm glad you love Chicago. I'm totally impressed. I don't know why I missed it. I mean, I can know why I missed it, but yeah, I haven't spent time here. Yeah, the architecture.
And you're supposed to eat a lot of pizza too.
I know. I haven't been eating pizza, but a lot of people haven't. Yes. It's awesome. Yeah, Carter, is that you saying I want to miss it in the winter, or is that Mark behind the Carter? Anyway, yes, everyone tells me that. Oh my gosh, you guys, it's been like 75 to 80 degrees here. And there has not been, the terrible wind off the lake and stuff like that. So I've got this false impression of what it's really like. But it's great. So it was definitely a hole in my knowledge. I knew a lot about the schools, like this whole conversation about the visits. Like I knew a lot about the schools in theory, but visiting just really, really helps me. So yeah, I did visit Northwestern yesterday, and yes, Millennium Park. I went walking in on my first day. I'm going to get back to Northwestern, but my first day, I came in and met up with a high school friend of mine who I haven't seen. We went to this program called Governor School together, and she went off to Brown, African-American friend of mine. I just mentioned that because she then found her way to Chicago, where it's been a really great experience for her to be in like a much more Black friendly, it feels like, city than where we grew up. So anyway, it was so fun to connect with her. And then she showed me around University of Illinois, Chicago, which is like a really decent option, like that doesn't get talked about very much. So I felt good about seeing that. And then on Monday, we spent the entire day at Loyola, Chicago. And they showed us a lot of things in student panels. It was a really very well done experience. They have two campuses. So they've got the Lakeshore campus and they've got a downtown campus. So they took us to both of them and showed all of the different things that they have going on there. And then yesterday was Northwestern and Lake Forest College, which is like one of the only smaller liberal arts colleges in the area. And today we went to Columbia, Chicago, which is started as an art school and now is more arts and liberal arts and business school. And then this afternoon was University of Chicago, and then tomorrow is DePaul and Illinois Tech. So what'd you think? Corinne, what's your Northwestern?
Oh, Mark went there.
Aha.
I lived nearby.
It's cold. Okay, got it. Well, Mark, have you been there? Is Mark there, or is it just Carter? Anyway, they have this new, like, they've made an incredible investment in their visitor center, and I'm going to prepare all of you for this concept. If you haven't been to college visits lately, colleges with deep pockets and colleges without deep pockets, but who aspire to deep pockets, have been doing this thing where they build a visitor center, a welcome center, and it's like all just for you to come visit there, and this big impressive building to make you go, ooh, look at this school, what a nice place. And so Northwestern has that now, like this big welcome center with like this huge wall of windows and looking right out over the lake with the sailboats right on the beach. So your money's being well spent. Yeah. Any Mark, any weighing in?
Northwestern's a rich school, so like
Yeah.
they have plenty of money. They own like the most expensive property in the Midwest, so they're doing okay.
Yeah, that was definitely the impression I got, for sure.
Their fortunes go like all schools, however their football team is doing.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. That's where all their money comes from.
Yeah. Well, I was glad though. I mean, their admissions officer, I don't know, she had some pretty woke things to say. Like not, it was, yeah. She was a thinking person, so that was good. And let's see. Yeah. They have a whole new application. My job, right, is like helping people doing the discernment process, but also doing the applications, and it's application season. So they were answering a lot of our questions about their new application questions. They have a whole new approach to it. So anyway, I'm rambling. Other folks? Yep. Corinne?
There's a small culinary school like right across the street from Northwestern. It was tiny. Yeah, but
they didn't point that out to us, and I am not hip to that, so tell me more.
Yeah, I used to teach in the basement of that college. Like I taught preschool in the basement of that college, but
That's
uh,
awesome.
I think it was a pretty well-known culinary school, if
Awesome.
that's what you're interested in. And I
Yeah.
thought Northwestern was a gorgeous campus.
Yeah. Stunning.
Yeah, really big.
Yeah. Totally.
Evanston, like a sweet place to live. It's expensive, but
It looked really nice. Yeah. Mhm. Yep. Um, Katie left. Okay. Great. So it's Chris, Mark, and Corinne. And is there any, if you guys are waiting to ask me individual questions, we could like, what could we do? I could take you into a breakout room, or we could make an arrangement to do that. Tell me what's up for people.
I'm gonna sign off.
Okay,
This was-
awesome. Bye,
Yeah,
Corinne.
me too.
Okay,
Okay,
see
thank
you
you.
later. Okay, bye.
See you later.
Carter, everything okay with you?
Yeah. You need to brush your teeth, but other than that,
Just say 10 or
speak up. She can hear you.
Are
she
you
doesn't know that I just did.
are you wearing something special, Carter? Or is it like a regular t-shirt, but it just looks interesting?
No, it's just a jacket because it's cold.
Oh, it was like the way you had it, it's funny. What I was seeing was it looked kind of like you had a tie on. Do you see? I don't know if you can see
Oh yeah.
that. Yeah, okay. So I thought for a little bit that you had like a button-down shirt on with a tie. So I was like, wow, you're like all dressed up. No need to dress up next time. No, okay.
You're gonna be in her recording of this.
Oh, I forgot about that. Here, let me end that. Let me stop the recording.